They say a person's greatness is determined by their thoughts. And time and again, this truth has been proven by legends. Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, Jeff Bezos, and countless others. Napoleon Hill once said in Think and Grow Rich, "Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve." But if that's true, why do so many people struggle? Why do some remain stuck, even when they dream big? Maybe the answer lies not in how much we want to receive, but in how much we are willing to give. Today's story is a timeless reminder of this truth, a journey from emptiness to abundance, from begging to business. Once, in a busy railway station in India, there lived a beggar. Every morning, before the first train whistled through, he would take his spot, a corner near the tea stall. With a torn bowl and tired eyes, he would whisper, "Please, sir, some coins for food." The air was always filled with the sounds of trains, vendors shouting, luggage being dragged, and passengers rushing. To most people, he was invisible, just another face in the crowd. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into years. This was his life, taking, asking, surviving. One hot afternoon, as the beggar wiped sweat from his brow, he noticed a man walking towards the platform. Tall, well-dressed, wearing a crisp suit and polished shoes. He looked confident, important, like someone who owned the world. The beggar's eyes lit up. "He looks rich," he thought. "If I ask him, maybe he'll give me a big note today." He quickly approached, stretched out his hand, and said softly, "Please, sir, something to eat." The businessman stopped, looked down at him, and asked calmly, "Do you always take from others?" The beggar blinked, confused. "Sir?" I asked, "Do you ever give anything to anyone?" The beggar stammered, "Give? I'm just a beggar. I have nothing, sir. I only survive by asking." The businessman smiled, not mockingly, but kindly. "If you believe you have nothing to give," he said, "then you also have no right to ask for anything." "I am a businessman," he added. "I believe in exchange. You give something, you receive something. That's how the world works." And with that, he stepped onto the train, leaving the beggar staring after him, speechless. That night, the beggar couldn't sleep. The man's words echoed in his head. "If you want to receive, you must first give." He tossed and turned on his thin mat near the station wall. "Give? But what can I give? I have nothing." For the first time in years, he felt ashamed. Not because he was poor, but because he had never thought of offering anything in return. The next morning, he didn't ask for money, nor did he the day after. He just sat quietly, thinking, observing. On the third day, something caught his eye. Near the railway tracks, wildflowers were blooming, small, bright, and beautiful. People passed by without noticing them, but the beggar couldn't take his eyes off them. A thought sparked in his mind. Maybe I can give these flowers to people, something to make them smile. He plucked a few carefully, arranged them in his old tin cup, and went back to his spot. That day, when someone dropped a coin into his bowl, he smiled and offered them a flower in return. At first, people were surprised, but slowly they smiled back. "How nice," one lady said, taking the flower. "Thank you, Babu," said another. And something beautiful happened. People started giving him more money. Some even returned just to get a flower. For the first time in years, the beggar didn't feel like a beggar. He felt like someone who had something to offer. Days passed. Every morning he would pick flowers, clean them, and keep them neatly arranged. He began to smile more, speak politely, and even decorate his little corner with petals. Soon, people started calling him the Flower Man. Children would wave at him. Vendors respected him. He was no longer invisible. But one day, he noticed something interesting. When he ran out of flowers, people gave him less money. So it's true, he thought. People value exchange. When I give something, they give more willingly. That night, he made a decision. He would never again sit empty-handed. He would always have something to give. Weeks later, the same businessman returned to the station. As he waited for his train, he saw a familiar face, the same beggar, but different now. Clean clothes, confident smile, a bunch of fresh flowers in hand. The beggar walked up to him and said proudly, "Sir, today I have something to give. If you give me money, I'll give you these flowers in return." The businessman smiled, handed him some cash, and accepted the flowers. "You've learned well," he said. "You are no longer a beggar, you are a businessman." The train whistled, and the man boarded, leaving the beggar smiling with pride. That night, the flower seller thought deeply. He called me a businessman, but am I really one? And then, like lightning, the realization hit him. Of course! I'm selling flowers. People aren't giving me money out of pity. They're paying for something I offer. He stood up, his heart pounding with excitement. I'm not a beggar anymore. I'm a trader, a businessman. The next morning, he left the station, carrying his flowers with him, not to beg, but to sell. He found a small spot near a temple and began his new journey. Every day, he greeted people with a smile and offered them flowers. Soon, he had regular customers. He saved money, bought better clothes, and one day, even rented a small shop. 6 months later, he had employees of his own. The beggar had truly transformed, inside and out. One bright morning, 2 well-dressed men met again at the same railway station. They shook hands warmly. "Do I know you?" asked the businessman. The other man smiled. "Yes, sir. You met me twice, once as a beggar and once as a flower seller." The businessman's eyes widened. "Wait, you're that man." The flower seller laughed gently. "Yes, sir, but today I'm no longer a beggar. I run a flower business, 5 shops now, and I'm traveling to open a 6th. The businessman was amazed. "That's incredible. What changed you?" The flower seller looked at him gratefully. "You did, sir. You taught me one of life's greatest truths, that we only receive when we learn to give." They shook hands again, this time as equals, and as the train pulled away, both men smiled, knowing that a single thought had changed an entire life. Life is shaped not by our circumstances, but by how we see ourselves. If you believe you are small, you'll remain small. But if you recognize your inner potential, you'll rise beyond your limits. Remember, success begins not with what you have, but with what you give. So, give effort, give kindness, give value, and the world will return it to you tenfold.